It's Fernando Ruiz art.
There we go.
Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. And in today's video, we're gonna jump right in because we're gonna draw, by popular demand, a picture of Spider-Man, a drawing of Spider-Man. And I say by popular demand because currently at the Kubert School where I teach, where I've been teaching for the past 25 years, my students are working on a Spider-Man story. So they've been requesting that I cover how to draw Spider-Man in some of my videos. Now, earlier this week, I put up a video on how I draw Spider-Man's face, more accurately, his mask. And I'll be linking to that in the description below. But today I thought I'd go over how I do a full figure of Spidey and how I get a whole Spidey pose. Now, if you've noticed, what I've been doing is kind of very sketching very loosely, going a little darker than I normally would. As I've said in some of my other videos, a lot of these lines that I'm laying down at this stage are really just construction lines. They're lines that only need to be dark enough for me to work with. So I'm making them a little darker so that they show up on video. Now, if you notice, I'm moving very quickly all over the body, just roughing things down. I'm not taking anything to a finish just yet. I'm moving from the legs back over to the arm now. And I'm doing this to basically get down and figure out a pose. Bouncing over to the other arm. I have a pose in mind, but I want to get it all down on paper. And this way I can judge it as I go. By bouncing around as I'm doing, I'm really keeping an eye on the entire figure. I'm not working piecemeal and finishing out the whole head and then moving down to other parts of the body. No, I'm keeping my eye on the development of the entire figure. Now, Spidey, he's a particular type of character. He has his own unique sets of challenges. So, of course, he's a very acrobatic, dynamic character, and he doesn't just stand or sit or walk or run. He has a very Spider-Man-like, everything's kind of exaggerated with him. So, what I like to do in figuring out a Spider-Man pose is I generally like to do what I call pushing the pose. And that means you just exaggerate everything. So if his arm is bent a certain way, you push the bend in that arm. If his spine is bent a certain way, you push the bend in that spine. And you do that until the figure stops making sense. And once it stops making sense, you know you've gone too far. And then you just scale it back a little. So, and if you notice these basic shapes that I've laid down for Spidey here that I'm now tweaking and combing into a more recognizable body, I'm using a lot of ovals, a lot of soft ovals and elliptical shapes, almost like I'm drawing him using bubbles. And I do that because ovals are just a whole lot more flexible than, say, cubes or any other hard geometric shape. So with the oval, I feel like I'm keeping Spidey's body fairly pliable. Now, I've also have resisted really getting into a whole lot of details because, well, I just haven't figured, haven't really thought about how finished I am with the figure. I haven't really taking a look on if, am I happy with the pose I got and so forth. But I'm pretty happy with how this is going. So I'm going to go in and do one of the things I can never resist, which is add Spidey's eyes. I really think these eyes are what put the Spidey in Spidey. So I like to put the eyes in. I said in my other video, when I was drawing Spider-Man's face, I'm not a big fan of the big eyes. I like the smaller, more angular Romita eyes. The eyes perfected by John Romita Sr. during his run on the book. So I am going in, and now at this point I'm doing a little refinement. I'm tightening up this figure so that he starts to really look like a person, and hopefully he will look like Spider-Man. And I could go in at this point and start indicating a few costume habits, a few costume details, like those blue underarm fields on Spidey's costume, which probably should come around like that. And then indicate Spidey almost has a belt. Indicate a little anatomy on Spidey, his pecs, his abs. I guess I could go in and give Spidey his spider symbol. I like to keep that relatively small, but I also like it to be seen. I don't know if I'll have time to go into all the webbing again on Spider-Man. There is this debate on whether Spidey's costume is really red and blue, or is it red and black with blue highlights. It may be that Steve Ditko, the very first Spider-Man artist, did indeed intend the blue areas to actually be black, but common comic book shorthand demands that highlights are colored using blue. So if Spidey's costume had any highlights on them, they were colored in blue. And I think what happened over the years is there was more blue in these blue, possibly black areas than there was black. And because of that, I think blue won out as that other color on Spidey's outfit. So I'm indicating a few of those highlights in this blue field right now. And in this blue field, Spidey's pants are always blue. Personally, I think I'm leaning toward blue and red as my choice for Spidey's colors. Mostly because that's really what I always thought it was. And the blue and red really makes it nostalgic for the Romita years. Definitely by Romita's run, the blue areas had opened up so much that they were unmistakably blue. So maybe Ditko really did have the intention of making Spidey's costume black and red, but by this point, I think most people regard his costume as blue and red. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. What's your opinion? Blue and red for Spidey or black and red? Okay. So now I've really gone into some detail. I continue to bounce around the figure because that just helps me keep tabs on the whole figure. It lets me feel like the whole figure is developing all at once. Maybe Spidey's head could be a little bit larger, indicate a little bit of a neck, a little bit of a cast shadow underneath the head there. A little bit of anatomy from the trapezius peeking by. Probably won't have time in this video to go in and do the webbing all over the body, because that could get pretty involved, and it'll end up making this video a whole lot longer than I'd like it to be. Let me see, jumping down to the feet. It's very important because we don't want Spidey to be defeated. Get it? All right, I'll stop. And there we go. I must atone for that joke. Get it? Atone. All right, I'll stop. I could hear my subscribers unsubscribing as I do this. Okay, let me see. Indicate a little bit more anatomy here. I'm very roughly doing so. You know, again, I would probably go a whole lot slower, just in the interest of time. But I just want to take you through as much of the figure as I can, and as much of my development of the figure as I can show you. Now, of course, nowadays it's very typical to see Spidey in all sorts of crazy poses. They now, more than ever, they really exaggerate Spidey's agility and his ability to contort himself. And you could do that too. Again, as I said before, just push the pose. Push the pose. And I think Spidey is just about done here. I think the figure is pretty much where I want him to be. I might there are few little details like the hand that I may want to tinker with. A couple other little anatomical structures I may want to add to him. But I think for the most part, forgot one thing, and that is Spidey's underarm webbing. You see a lot of people leave the underarm webbing off of him. And honestly, having grown up in the 70s and 80s, I never noticed that Spidey had that underarm webbing until I started reading reprints of the Steve Ditko stories. And Ditko, of course, made that webbing so much more prominent. Okay, so that's Spidey. I hope you like how I finished, how I drew this. If you have any questions about Spidey or my techniques here, please let me know in the comments below. And if you have any questions really on anything, any suggestions, always put them down in the comments. I do read them all myself, and I do respond as much as I can. So if you like this video, please click like. Please feel free to share as much as you like. And I will see you in the next video. Keep drawing, everybody. Keep drawing. And please, always remember, don't suck my brush. See you next time, everybody.